This is my 95 Dodge Ram with the 12 valve Cummins in it. Just got it all put back together here. Just going over and showing you what all's done to it. It's as far as the bottom end, everything the bottom end is all stock. It has a Hamilton cam 178-208 cam in it with new tappets and power driven diesel push rods and power driven diesel conical valve springs. Got rid of the heater grid and put a dual intake manifold on there. The injection pump, I sent that off to power driven diesel too, and I was supposed to get a 215 pump turned up, but when I got it back and got started putting the brackets and everything back on, I noticed all the numbers were the same, so I called them up to check, because this is my first ever diesel messing with something, rebuilding it and all, so I didn't know maybe the numbers were all the same on all of them, but they looked it up and it ended up being they just took my pump and put a different cam in it and maxed it out. But so that's kind of disappointing, but it should be good for the power number that I'm hoping to eventually accomplish. The 215 pump max out is good for 1,000 horsepower, and I don't plan on going that high. 800 would probably be the highest that I would ever hope to get to. But in there I got some of power driven diesels 5x18 injectors, and I still have the fuel plate in there right now, and it's ground down to 0. They set the pump up for one of their EFI Live controllers, if you ever seen one of those, but I didn't know that at the time, so I just have the fuel plate in there for now. I might eventually get one of those, because it would be nice to control your smoke when you want to and have more power when you want that as well. But as far as the fueling system, that's all it's done to there, and pretty much had every single gasket replaced on this. Took the oil pan off when I had the transmission out, and I welded a bung, and then I'll get a flashlight here, welded a bung down there. You can see that for when I eventually do compound turbos, so I have that, it's all ready to go. I drilled and tapped the oil filter housing, so I have my second feed line already ready to go when I do that. This has a AFE exhaust manifold on it. It's a T3 housing, and this is a Borg Warner 362 SXE turbo. I think it has a 68 millimeter wheel on it, and see my drain lines, I used all AN fittings, and it turned out pretty clean, as well as the drain. You can kind of see the drain there. There's that. And I used a Fleece Performance, the part that pushes into the block that has the AN fitting on it. That turned out pretty nice, except using it with the stock blow off valve there is pretty tight. You gotta kind of wiggle that around to get it just right. There's hardly any room to do that. It's got the HX40 outlet on it, and I wrapped that with exhaust wrap. Looks really clean. And the intake here, I made that. I just got the hose boots and a 45-degree angle piece of 4-inch aluminum tubing, and put the filter that I had on there. It's a big honkin air filter, AFE, but it's a cleanable type. You can clean it if you want to. And got all new rubber boots the whole way around on the intercooler and everything. New clamps, redid everything. I took my radiator out and cleaned that up, and that was okay. You can see here the oil filler. I wanted to do something different. I had that little filter there, and it got smashed from me working on it. That's why it smashed down. But I drilled the oil filler out and put a fitting in there and put that breather on there so that it gives a little bit extra breathing. And I do have a billet tappet cover on there. You can't really see, but you can kind of see right down in there. It has the dual breathers on it, and they go right down to the motor there. What else? The intercooler is a Northern Radiator 2.5-inch intercooler, and it bolted right up. Has your the mounting holes and everything already cast into it for your AC condenser, and if you want to run your stock transmission cooler. The only thing it didn't come with was the brackets here on this end to mount your AC and transmission cooler, but probably your factory ones you could probably drill the pop rivets out right there and pop rivet these back on, because there was holes right there for it. I just took and made those brackets up and pop riveted them right on, and it worked out great. And underneath here I have a BD double stacked transmission cooler that I mounted up. You see it right there. It's mounted at an angle under there, and it fits pretty good. It's pretty tight, and should have decent airflow. I have the it has the fan on. I just got to wire that up yet. I'm just going to run a direct switch to the fan when it gets to about 160 or 180, then I'll turn that on. But it's been staying pretty cool right now without turning it on. This is power driven diesel 650 horsepower transmission with a billet input shaft, triple disc converter, all billet pieces inside, deep pan. And then back here right now I just have a airdog 100, I think it is, with a sump at the bottom of the tank. I've been running that not too long after I got the truck. I put it on there, started modifying simple things here and there, and the airdog pump, really, you can really notice a difference. It smooths out your throttle response and everything. I don't know if there's really any horsepower gain, but you can really notice a difference in driving it, that it's there. And that's pretty much it for that. Putting that on the second gen here, the brackets didn't really fit because the frame rail is a lot thicker. I don't know if this truck is different. It has a flatbed on it. I don't know if this was like a truck that used to have a regular bed on it or not, or if it come from the factory as just a cab and chassis. If maybe that's why maybe this frame is thicker than a regular truck, I'm not sure, but I had to kind of finagle that in there because the bracket wasn't quite tall enough to be able to work, so I had to modify that a little bit. But I've had it here, the pump on there, for over a year, and it's worked out great. But with all these other fueling upgrades, I'm going to have to get a bigger lift pump, I think. Right now I got it turned up pretty much as far as it can go, and it's maxed out at like 40 pounds of fuel pressure, and when you get on it, it's dropping down. I mean, it only drops down to about 30 or so, but from what I've seen on these 12 valve with a P pump in them, the higher fuel pressure you go, the better, the better it'll run, the more horsepower you can make with it. And the downpipe is a 4-inch downpipe, and then from the downpipe back is all 5-inch pipe out to the tailpipe. And that's pretty much it for that. For the wiring, I tried to clean the wiring up when I was working on this. Like I said, I moved the battery over, got rid of the heater grid stuff, and then here in the back, your wires usually come out and run up along here over to your computer, and your engine harness comes over and runs over here and on top of your alternator. And also I wanted to try and clean it up, so I took the wiring harness and I pushed it behind the brake booster here. The wires are all under there. Got rid of the plugs that are usually up here, and they're all back there running behind the brake booster. And you can see the wires are tucked up underneath of the cowl there, and when you're standing up here you can't really see them. And then the engine harness that comes over to the front of the motor is right there, and I have it running right there behind the injection pump, and comes around, and a couple wires run over there, and then the rest of them come over and run over to your alternator. Got it running underneath there for a nice clean look that you can't see them, and that turned out pretty well. I like how that looks. For when I did that, I just when I got rid of the heater grid, I actually took and cut the all the wires off that went to that, and then like I said in another video, when I went to start it up, it started up about 5 times fine, and then after that it kept blowing number 9 engine fuse. So I thought I really screwed something up, so I went through the wiring harness looking for wires and couldn't find anything that was broke or anything like that. So I thought I really screwed something up by getting rid of all of the heater grid stuff, and thought I did something wrong with that, but it ended up being a wire inside of the brand new transmission that went to a solenoid, got pinched, and that's what was grounding out and blowing the fuse. So if you're wanting to delete your heater grid for good, you know, there's really no ill effects of it. You can see I got rid of the other relay that was up there. What that one there goes to your fuel shutoff solenoid right there. And when you blow your number 9 engine fuse, that's the main thing. It controls your fuel shutoff solenoid, so when you turn the key on, it's not moving that solenoid to allow you to get fuel. It then also cuts off your alternator, and it cuts off your tach, and I think possibly the speedometer. I'm not sure about the speedometer, because I also had the diesel shop that I took this to figure out that fuse blowing problem. Found that the new transmission had the wrong speedometer gear in it, so they had to change that out, and that works fine now. But that's pretty much all that. All the wires, the air intake temperature sensor, I got rid of that. All the wires, I went right back to the connectors and cut them off, and pulled the actual connector out, like from the computer, where the wire, if the wire went in there, I took the prong and pulled it right out of there. Or if it went in to the there's a bunch of plugs right over there, you can kind of see a couple of them where the wires went in there. I pulled them right out of that, so there's nothing there at all, and that all worked out pretty well. The only other thing is there's going to be black and green wire. That's kind of like a small power wire that goes to a lot of your gauges and sensors and stuff for the heater grid. There's like 5 of them that come back into a group. It's going to be somewhere in here, I think, or so, or maybe down closer to the wire loom that's over here. But where those come together, I just snipped the wire right off where they all come together that I got rid of. The same way there's a black and brown tracer wire, I think, and I did the same thing with that. Just snipped it off right where the factory has them all coming together, and electrical taped it all together, and that all worked out great. So it has a real nice clean look. I mean, the truck is kind of a piece of junk when you look at it from the outside. It's not real pretty or anything like that. Has just a flatbed 2-wheel drive. Paint's not that great. It was actually worse than this. I actually took and sanded it down and spray painted it, and turned out pretty good.